You got this and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, Mr. Hunt. What's poppin', baby? How you feeling today?
Hey, Conrad. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm chilling.
It's WSOP time, so I'm excited.
Are you? What are you playing today?
We got the 5K 8 max on deck today, so looking forward to that one. Poker News is hyping it as a new event. Like, it's just a 5K with that's 8 max. It's not new, but like whatever.
This is the one that I final tabled.
I've also final tabled this one.
Yeah, apparently it's a new event. I don't know where that's coming from because 2 people in this room have final tabled it already. So I don't know why it's new.
I'm jumping in. I'm jumping into it.
Lamanna's actually final tabled it as well.
I'm jumping in with a 500% crossbook, so jumps a lot in the DM.
Who are you crossbooking?
Whoever wants the action.
Wow,
Sure.
Strong.
Who wants it?
I'll be watching the Buccos at home.
You know, Conrad, it's the eyes closed during the intro for me that really does it. Like you're so dedicated to the bit.
So dedicated.
His popping was really popping today.
Yeah,
he really hit it.
I feel like I kind of get. I feel like it's giving hints of vinegar strokes. You know, like I'm kind of getting the.
Can you explain vinegar strokes?
Well, it's a league reference. It's a reference to the show The League. Eskimo Brothers is another great reference.
Everyone knows Eskimo Brothers.
Apparently, I was talking to Schwan, and she's known Eskimo Brothers since she was like 10. And I don't know what's going on up in Canada, but you know,
I mean,
that was a term I learned through the league in college.
Anything related to Eskimos, the Canadians would know about.
Well,
right?
she might have been 10 when the league came out.
So. No. We're not that far apart. Vinegar strokes is, you know, your finishing move, if you will. I feel like we're getting a little O face there out of Conrad with the eyes closed.
Gotcha.
No.
Somebody
you have to pick the weirdest direction to start this pod in.
That's what you think, buddy. We've gone through 550 episodes. I promise you, I can find you a weirder one.
Yeah, actually, I don't
is
doubt
not
that.
impressed.
That's a good girl.
She comes here and she does the same thing every day. So what you're telling me here, Guapo, is this is a choice. The black on black and on purple. That you're like, you know, I gotta get this a little darker.
We need to get Pip some light.
I put a light on her, man. We just don't have, you know, stadium lighting.
No. It's
that light. That's not.
It's when it became Melissa's camera and she looked like Pip. He's like, I did that for the Pip cam. I'm like, wait. So like, we're making a conscious effort to see if she can blend in with the floor. Oh man, poor Guapo. He just gets so much shit.
I know he does.
He's the man. Wait till
works harder than anybody on this podcast for sure.
I was gonna say, wait till we get to the end of Mock.
It's a tough one today.
No, it's actually not that bad. At first, I was like, I don't even know how we're going to run this. But then, you know, whenever we are able to demonstrate rake versus no rake, I think it's going to bring a little light on the subject.
I'm glad you got that one because I didn't even look for one today because Hunt's on. I didn't think we were doing one today.
Well, it's World Series time, Brian. So Strat Chat is on pause in the usual way, you know, like, Hunt's going to come with a preloaded topic. And no. It's WSOP time.
We can't be giving away all the strategy during WSOP. I got to protect my own EV here.
Exactly. If you weren't here 2 months ago, we can't help you.
Yeah, you don't get to just show up now, okay? We're going to be talking hand histories. We're going to be talking epic punts.
And if you can't handle us at our worst outside of WSOP, you don't deserve us at our best during WSOP. That's how it works.
Man, that I use that Marilyn Monroe quote as the biggest red flag right below.
It's an incredible red flag.
When it comes to dating sites, that quote is the second biggest red flag right behind what's your sign.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Those are the two things that I'm absolutely running for the hills from. And by running for the hills, I mean running straight at them.
Yeah. I mean, they're basically saying, like, my worst is pretty bad.
I was going to say, what do you mean to the
and
hills?
by red flag, I mean I'm a bull.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, red.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, waving it to you.
Right.
Totally. God. What a nightmare
Too
Vegas
fucking
is.
funny.
So we missed one bracelet winner yesterday. My apologies, because he's one of the GOATs, and my man's been disrespected.
Yes.
Went
Been
for
fucked up.
$13 in the fantasy draft. This man plays all the games.
He had a rough year last year.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, it's only a few events. Shit
understand.
happens.
Who are we
Things
talking
go
about here?
sideways. Bryce Yokcey.
Oh, Bryce.
Fucking goat.
Right off the jump.
One of the
Oh,
goats.
wow, yeah.
You know, it's funny, when we were going through our thing, I somewhat overlooked him, but when I was heavily saying like, oh, we need another mixed game guy or whatever, I got down to Yokcey at $13, and I'm like, we should probably take him in my head. But then I was like thinking, well, if he went for $13, he must just not be playing this year. So I was like, I'm not going to make the same Jay Merce mistake that I made 2 years ago. I'm not trying to lose this bet again.
Right.
Man just comes out, ships a fucking bracelet. No problem. Event 3.
Has more points than he did last year already.
Yeah, that's a good start.
And a 5K PLO too. That's got to be a tough event.
Yeah, I would assume. Wow, man, I don't know. Does anyone know
But
how
who
to
the
play
hell knows
PLO?
how to play PLO?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Oh yeah, see, I look at it one way of like nobody knows how to play PLO, therefore all the people who do know must be in this 5K.
That's
and therefore
kinda
it'll be
how-
tough.
probably how it works,
But you're
yeah.
looking at it like nobody knows how to play PLO, so everybody must suck.
Correct.
So therefore,
Correct, yeah.
it could be either way, I guess. Could be either way.
Greg, who won the Venetian event last week,
also doesn't know how to play PLO. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
fucked up. No, he was saying that like he played, I think an 800 maybe at the Venetian, and he said it was significantly tougher from the previous week when people weren't here yet.
Oh, right.
And he said there was a lot of people that played the 5K that were in the 800. So like, there's like just PLO players are out there just playing everything.
Yeah,
right?
they're just
playing the
looking to-
800 to playing the 5K.
Looking to get in their reps.
Right.
I think that's true. Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't play much PLO. I'm certainly not going to.
Really.
I'm not going to. Well, I play a little heads up.
I mean, well, yeah.
To be fair, though, that's
You
not
see
really.
a mark, you take them down.
That's right. That to be fair, that's not really PLO. That's just let's get to the river and see what I can get them to do. What's the strength of my holding? And now let me see if I can pull some puppet strings here.
Have you guys played recently? We need an update.
No, he's been getting too many good spots, and I've been getting shut out. So I'm kind of like, bro, like every day, you want to play? You want to play? You want to play? He's like, I'm in the main game. I'm like, right, but I'm at home. So like,
Why are you not at Paris?
You wanna,
Fuck the Paris. Do
I'm at
I look
home.
European?
I'm
Do
at
I look
home.
French, motherfucker?
Kinda.
I'm at home. You want to meet me at the office? We'll play a little heads up PLO.
We talked about that. He's like, you know, I just got a new table and chip set at my house. Get a dealer and we'll fire. Like, all right, Conrad, what's going on?
The 5K
work
today
for
is it 8 max?
That's the rumor that Hunt's been spreading.
I mean, that's what I read.
Maybe it's 7 max, which would make it a new event,
or
pretty
12
sure it's
max.
or 4 max.
Because you have any interest in playing it?
Very, very, very small. If what time does late reg end? Do you know? Hunt?
I don't know, but
Probably late.
It might
I
be
would say-
day, it might be day 2.
I think it's day 2 actually.
Yeah, I would say
you're
the first level of day 2.
It's 10 1-hour levels on day 1, and I'm pretty sure they did say reg ends after level 10, so start at level 11.
And do you
Yeah, I
know,
mean-
do you have any idea what time day 2 begins?
Well, day 1 begins at 2, so I assume day 2 is like between noon and 2
Okay.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's a small
If you
chance.
don't have a seat, right?
No, I always have a seat. I just don't have a seat to the main. But there's a chance that I would reg either like last level tonight if the game breaks early, or go down after the pod tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's low.
It's 2 entries. It's single re-entry. So if you fire tonight, you can also fire again in the morning if you bust.
Also, and if you bust tomorrow, you can jump into the 800 Ultra
No,
Stack. or Deep Stack.
absolutely fucking.
Come on, man.
But
Bro,
you know,
Get in there with me.
I know
I'm,
you're-
I'm swinging hundreds of thousands of dollars every single day.
Me too. Well, hundreds of thousands of chips.
But you know what might be more up your street is on Thursday is the 25K 6 max.
You know, I played it last year, and I was really, really excited to play it because I thought it would be a very comparable field to the 10K 6 max, which I think is like a sweet spot as far as like difficulty goes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, all the good players play it, but still gets like 500 or 600 runners, and it's pretty soft. Maybe I just like got unlucky, or I regged it at the wrong time because I was there pretty early. It was fucking killers, wall to wall. Like I got there and there was like 130 people registered, and like 90 of them were just like high rollers.
Okay, so
Say that to me today. I'm playing this shit on Thursday. Tell me how soft it is.
It may have gotten soft. It may have gotten soft, but I busted relatively quickly and didn't fire a second shell.
Okay.
I would just like look back on last year's numbers. It might have gotten like 400.
It got 320 something.
I'm sure like a lot of the recreationals like waded their way into the pool halfway through the day or whatever. It's one that I wish I had max late regged, but I also struggle with that. Like I've max late regged the 25Ks of the series before, and I always feel like I'm giving up a ton of EV because I suck at short stack. Like I'm not a good push fold guy. And I don't even give myself a chance to like play with the recreationals.
Right. Like I think you specifically as a cash specialist should not max late reg stuff. Like you should play the early levels. Someone like me, like I could consider max late regging it because I've put so much work into shorter stacks. But
yeah,
I
your
feel
biggest edge is
your
deeper.
EV is going to come from playing the deep portions really well. Against players who just don't play a lot of 300, 200 big blinds.
That conflicts with his with him not wanting to play the tournament at all.
It hurt. For sure hurt.
That's kind of a key obstacle.
Few amount of hours as possible.
For sure hurts my overall hourly. And you want to know what the other problem with that is, Hunt?
What?
If that's where all my EV comes from, I'm not making much EV.
Yeah, that's also true.
So,
because there's about 3 hours of the entire 3-day event that you're deep.
So Hunt was right. It is 11 levels of registration, and it ends at 2 o'clock on day 2.
Excellent, Conrad. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Great chance I can make it.
It's a good time to get there.
To at least max late reg it. There was a time, this must have been 4 years ago. Of course I found a way to fucking bubble. I'm so dumb.
This is the time that the one I fucking
No. This must have been like 4 years ago.
We both maxed at the same time.
That was different. We maxed it like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
This was like 4 years ago. One of the first times they had day 2 registration open, and it was for a 5K. It was when it was back at the Rio. I maxed late reg, and we were like 18 out of the money, maybe fewer. Might have been like 11 out of the money, something like that.
Jesus.
And of course, I just find a way to like rocket it all off with Ace Queen versus Chewy. 1 out of the fucking money off of like 18 bigs. Like did not have to bubble. Did not. It's the one Christina, our student, got like 4th in.
Okay.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah.
You
what
literally
what event is this, Matt?
It was a
5K.
I think at that point it was a 5K 9 max.
Okay.
But yeah, you could like reg and just basically cash. Like
That's wild.
Yeah, and it was like a reasonable late registration, like 20 big blinds or something like that.
Quite honestly, all the WSOP events are kind of like that. Like
Come on.
There's
a huge difference between.
They're not that far off, man.
There's a big difference between 80% of the field being eliminated and 35 to 40% of the field.
I mean,
being
I
eliminated.
think you could, for the mystery bounty, you could max late reg after level 12. That was the last level, and then they were making the money level like 16 or 17.
17.
17.
I
So
think,
like. You
pretty good.
If you can make make it through 2 hours of play.
If you look at the average tournament structure, level 17 is a really good barometer of when most tournaments will quite often reach the money.
Right.
Like 17 is like the average. So if you get the opportunity to late reg in like level 12 or even later than that, like that's pretty good usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funny story about the mystery bounty. I actually tried to play it, believe it or not.
No way.
I tried to fire a shell.
What happened?
Our game broke early one day at like 5. About 6 actually, and I knew dinner was 6 to 7, and I swore that I read max late reg was post dinner.
Oh no.
About 7 o'clock, right? So I rush over there. I load my account.
You're about 2 hours late.
Put 60,000 in the TBIC that I probably won't touch all summer.
60.
Throw 20 on my WSOP account. First bracelet event is that day. This is on Saturday. And I run into Danielle and I'm like, all right, where do I, can I reg the mystery bounty? She's like, you're 90 minutes too late. No, I'm not. I like, what do you know? What do you work here?
Yeah.
Like, it said 7 o'clock. She's like, it's 5:30. I'm like, absolutely not. I read it on the site and I go and I look and I did read it on the site. But what I read was the dinner break was at 7 o'clock.
She loved that so much.
Ate it up with a spoon.
She loved this so much.
With a spoon, man. Just nom. And I was like, your client sucks.
What I love is that it's such a classic high stakes cash player thing to do. It's like you're showing up to late reg a 1K and you're like, give me 60K in my account. Like I might need 60 bullets in this 1K.
No,
you don't just go pay cash with $1,000 of real cash.
I don't
you just
ever
load up 60K.
because I'm bringing Bellagio chips, so I have to get them changed over, and I don't don't ever want to go through this process again.
Oh my God.
And for what it's worth, if I play any level of volume, like I think last year I played 7 events and I exhausted 100K on the TBIC.
Okay.
So it's like if I play any amount of volume whatsoever, I'm going to run through this money.
Yeah.
And it's just like I was lucky. It was a
Not if
Saturday.
you cash a few things.
I cashed everything, but you don't have to put it back on your TBIC. Like I broke even last year.
You don't have to, but you can to just.
But you shouldn't. Or at least I shouldn't, because like the way it works is if you load with chips, they give you chips back, and then you end up with like 100K in Paris chips at the end of the summer.
Did they give you budget?
No, that's the annoyance, right? They give you 100K in Paris chips, and then good fucking luck trying to get those swapped over because the casinos don't speak to one another.
I mean, you can just tell them that you play 1-3 and you play 1-3 at the Paris.
I would like $100,001 chips, please.
Just sitting there with a mountain in front of you.
Like this is legit because what ended up happening was I had 10K left on my TBIC last year, and when I went to cash out, they're like, "We have to give you chips." I'm like, Jesus Christ, okay. So they gave me 10K in Paris chips, and I just held them for the year. So obviously that was a big problem when I went to the window on Saturday. I'm like, I want to load these on my WSOP account, and they're like,
"Where'd you get them?"
Yeah, and so they go through the whole thing, right? Obviously, there's a log of it, but first of all, you can't use chips to load your .com account, which I had no idea. So then I had to get them swapped into cash. But it was just like a whole process of like, why do you still have these? You know what I mean? And to be fair, like the staff there is amazing. Like I can't remember her name, but the manager I worked with, she was incredible.
Did you look at her like she was crazy? I'm rich.
No. Like she went through the system, like saw that I was on the list for like Bellagio and Aria, and like she handled everything very, very, very quickly, and I appreciate her to death. It's funny how little communication there is between each of the different staffs, right? So like I first went to my TBIC and they don't communicate at all with .com, right? So then I go to the .com and they're like, we have no record of anything. And we also don't take chips, so get the fuck off my window. And I'm like, well, can you make it cash? And then I'll give you the cash. So it's a little bit of a process, but honestly, like compared to years past, and granted I haven't been there as much this year, everything seems so seamless.
It's been really smooth.
No lines.
Smooth.
No lines.
Very few lines to load up accounts.
Yeah.
Like the online registration is smooth as always. They've done a really good job this year.
And everything was 9-handed. Even the last day of the mystery bounty when they had 8,000 people in the event.
I was so surprised.
We were playing 9-handed.
Even 1C of the mystery bounty. I thought with 5,300 people in the room at the same time, I was like, we have to go 10-handed at some point. We never did.
That's
really
great.
This is
really
going to get
impressed.
Berkey there more often.
No, it's not. But I'm really happy and proud of what WSOP is doing. Like I don't want to play, but that's my choice. Like I want the WSOP to be a thing, and I want it to be something that continually grows and brings more people to the game. And you know, I'll scream from the rooftops how amazing I think that the summer series is, as well as like the WPT in December. Like I get pumped for this stuff, even if I'm just like kind of fanboying from the outside looking in. Like, look, I'll make some bets. I'll put some people in. Like I'll have sweats. I just don't want the torture. Like unless you can just find a way to hit fast forward and put me in the final 2 tables where I suddenly like get that, you know, heartbeat a little bit. Like
what I think is funny is that sweating other people for you is fine, but playing it yourself is like more torturous. Because for me, it would be the opposite.
Only the early stage. I want the pressure of the late stage.
Okay,
but and honestly, like sweating people, like I barely made it till Landon's WPT.
Right.
And it's like that's one of the few, like, you know, when you got a heads up for a bracelet, I had like half of you. And I was in the 3-6-12 game that was like too good to leave. So I remember I was like texting with the group. We were making results may vary at the time. I remember
you were like rushing over.
And like they're like, he's down to 9, and it was a turbo. Yeah. And I was like, all right, let me know when he's down to 5. Like I'm really struggling leaving this game. And they're like, okay, like he's down to 6. And then it just really quickly went like he's down to 3.
It did. It was because one guy busted like 6 people in a short amount of time, and I was short stacked, and I was like 4 of 5. And then suddenly I was heads up. It was like, it was wild.
Yeah, so I get the text like he's down to 3, and I'm like, fuck. So I didn't even rack. I just left my chips. I was like, I'll be back soon, I think. Yeah. And as I rushed over to the Rio, I like greet you busting.
Yeah, it was like you just got there, and I'd just gotten second. It was like, all right, well, thanks for the sweat.
Yeah.
It was that was a fun time though. I'd like to do that again.
Yeah.
Except not get second this time.
I would like that too.
Take second.
I would take second, but I've got 2 seconds already. I'm collecting seconds. I want firsts now.
And to be fair, I would show up a little bit earlier this time. Not that 100, 200 isn't big stakes, but it's not 3-6-12.
Yeah, 3-6-12 is a big game. I appreciate you even leaving that game at all. Like, I don't think I knew at the time. If you'd said I'm playing 3-6-12, I would have been like, it's all right, bro. Just stay. It's fine.
It's tough when you have more sitting in front of you than you're actually playing for.
Right, like your portion of my action is like less than one buy-in for the game you're currently sitting in. So like I would have understood if you just said I can't make it. Like,
but like from the gambler's perspective, there's nothing sweeter than what feels like free money. Right,
like someone else making a big score.
And obviously it's not free because you're investing a bunch along the way. But like, man, when it cashes in, and you're just like, holy shit, this guy's just gonna cut me a check for 150K.
Yeah,
like what a feeling.
I had like a really minor version of that a few months back. Like Ryan is a student of mine and a friend of mine who came to our academy. You probably remember him,
I remember
like
Ryan.
long dreadlocks.
Yeah. He's a fun guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He was firing like a $300 tournament at the win. He was like, hey, do you want a piece? And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take a third of it. Just threw him $100 for a third of this $300 tournament. And he just like wins it for 17K.
Oh man, it's
and
amazing.
Sends me 5K, and I'm like, holy shit! I just spent $100 to win 5K. That's amazing. Like I should do this more often.
Injected in my veins.
I know, right?
I can't believe you're not into crypto. That happens all the time.
Except all the crypto stories I hear are the opposite. Like investing 5K to win $100.
Yeah,
and I'm
well,
like, okay,
that happens too.
Yeah, I don't want that.
A lot of things go to zero.
You got to catch it on the ride up, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the trick. I suppose.
The plan. Following up with some WSOP updates, the 10K Omaha High-Low 8 or Better Championship, of course, the sickest man in the room, Scott Seavers, chip leader with 4 left.
Yep. Wow.
Why wouldn't he be?
Yep, of course.
This got, it looks like...
Cal's in there as well.
Yeah. 171 entries. First place, 426K. So there are 4 remaining. Chip counts are Scott Seaver has just about 4 million. Jonathan Cohen has 3.6. Cal has 2.5. And then Paul Zapalua, who I actually don't know, is 1.9.
Oh,
sorry, 1.7.
I punted off my stack to Jonathan in the main last year.
Well, there's 2 John Cohens. So are you sure it's...
Oh, okay, maybe not. Maybe
probably
it's a
a
different
lot.
one.
Yeah, there's an Asian John Cohen from LA.
No, this is a white guy with a dog.
Yeah, that's he lives here.
Oh, okay.
He's the one who won Gardens WPT like 3 years. The very first one that they ran in the Hypersports.
Oh, okay.
Or the HyperX Arena rather. So yeah, good luck to Seaver. Obviously, why wouldn't he be there?
Fucking win it,
we were
Seaver.
debating between him and Rast. I mean,
I know.
we fucked up.
It's always Seaver.
Just take
We
them
fucked
both.
up. You got to take the sickest.
You got to
man
take
in
the
room.
sickest. Yeah, exactly.
You're right.
The one that's absolutely lost his
Especially
mind.
us. Like, who? I mean, he's like, he
One-
belongs on the island of misfit toys with us.
One of us.
Exactly.
One of us.
Precisely. Like, man, he could be our ringleader for sure.
Any man that puts 46 into a flip and go, aye,
That's my
Captain.
guy. Yeah. Follow you into the abyss, sir. You are my leader. Just tell me where to go and where to fire it all off. All right, let's talk mystery bounty because this is one of the pristine or prestige. No, prestigious isn't the right word. It's one of the draws. Premier.
It's the fun one.
Well, it's supposed to be, Conrad. It's supposed to be.
I didn't have any fun.
I gotta tell you, about 95% of the field didn't have any fun.
Yeah.
But to the 5% that did, they for anybody who hasn't played any of these mystery bounties, it's a pretty cool process. So basically, you bust somebody and you get I can't remember. I think it's like a seat card. It looks like a seat card.
They get you all to. They give you all a bounty seat card. They get you to write your name on the back.
Right. Yes.
And
yes,
when you
yes.
bust somebody, they give you. They give you their card. With their
and then you go
name on
turn
the
it
back
into
of
a desk.
Right, exactly.
So you turn it into the desk, and they have this little app in front of them, and they basically just hit a randomizer, and either you get one of the smaller bounties, which I think in this one it ranged
1K.
from...
It was 1K. It was the smallest
1K was a
bounty.
min?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 500.
No,
Nah, it
1K.
was 1K.
Okay, so I think it ranged from like 1K to 10K was non-chest, and then 25K and above was you get to pull from the special treasure chest here, which we see happening with Mr. Platt leading the way. And in the chest, you had bounties that ranged from $25K all the way up to $1 million. Two $1 million prizes, I think one 500K.
There was a 500, there was two 250s.
250s, yeah.
300Ks or something.
I think Guapo has the payout somewhere.
And then there's like a bunch of 25Ks in there.
Yeah, there was a lot of 25s.
Yeah, so I think the total bounty prize pool, if I recall correctly, was like 2.6 or no,
it was like
5.5. Okay, so it's double what I thought it was.
5.5.
Yeah, so it's double what I thought it was.
So look how many 1Ks. I mean, it's just like you're almost starting to get
but
a 1K.
It's not enough.
Right.
Well, I shouldn't say it's not enough. I should say it's not enough of the prize pool that goes into those lower numbers, in my opinion, right? So when you look at the 10Ks and below, the ones that aren't in the chest, you're talking about it being like 1.2 million, 1.3 million of the prize pool. And it's like...
Yeah, like basically a little over $1 million goes to like the bottom three.
Yeah, so about 20% of the prize pool, which is great because that means like 80% of the remaining prize pool is up top. So that sounds like really nice, right? Problem is, of that 80%, half of it goes to the top two prizes.
Yeah.
Which is, in my opinion, like a little bit problematic. Or actually, it's 2/3 of that almost goes to the top two. No, it's about half. A little over half.
I think, man,
do 1 million.
Just do one. Like I don't like the 1 million. Like it's like, oh, you get 2 chances at it. But it's like, no, one person gets to pull it, and like that's it. And then you can disperse that other million like
however you want.
Yeah, and
10Ks and above.
You make a lot of other people like decently happy.
I think it should be 1 million, 2 500Ks, 3 250Ks.
There you go,
like just have it be sequential in like a pyramid, basically, where. It doesn't make sense to me that you have like 2 1 millions and only 1 500,000. Like
right.
It's so unbalanced.
I would even go a step further. I'd like to see it dispersed from like 100K down.
Yeah.
100K down to like 10Ks. Mm-hmm. Give people like a 10K prize is meaningful.
Right.
Yeah.
To a 1K player.
What you want is somebody like a greater proportion of people being able to win a really meaningful amount of money from a 1K buy-in that could lead to them hopefully putting that money into other tournaments.
Right. Exactly. You want as many people of that 5% that get the chance to have a pleasant experience as possible. And like the more people that are plucking 1Ks, which you can see it's like 800 people, I think.
Yeah.
The more people that are plucking 1Ks, the more they're going to be like livid at fucking Hendrix, who gets 3 bounties and 3 chest pulls.
Yeah.
Really?
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He got
100K and 2 25Ks.
Yeah, 150K in bounties.
I think,
and then he cashed for 30K.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that there needs to be something else in these things. We need punishments. We need a whammy.
Oh.
We need, like, honestly, cut the 1Ks in half. Cut them in half, or maybe even like a quarter.
I think the problem with a whammy,
give 500 whammies in there.
Well, no, you wouldn't cut them in half. You would double them.
What?
If you're giving negative pools, then that
I want to take 1Ks out and then put more money in like 5Ks and 10Ks.
Oh, I see.
So like forget 1Ks, maybe like do fucking 250 of them or something like that. You add 500 whammies, put more money up top.
Yeah.
In the middle, sorry, not up top.
The problem is
take
like
$1 million off top too.
I don't think you can do that when only 5% are viable for the bounties to begin with.
Why?
Well, because 10% of the people that made the money already didn't get a chance to pull the bounty, and now you're taking another, like, I don't know, 20% of the people who have the chance to pull a bounty and giving them a middle finger whenever they actually pull a bounty.
And that's great.
I don't think it is.
What if they had other prizes like you could pull and you get like a 30 big blind boost to your stack? Or something like that.
It's just too much in these big fields. I think all these things are good ideas for the 10K.
Yeah.
Because it's a small controlled field. Mm-hmm. And it also adds a nice element of variance to the bounty prize pool where you can't just like always be calculated. Because like when I went deep last year, the big prize, the 500K prize was there until 3 tables left. And then it got pooled on dinner break. And now all of a sudden we went from playing like chip EV with 18 left to suddenly like a heavy ICM spot where the bounties were only, I think the bounties went from being worth like 25K a piece or something like that to being worth like 8.
Wow. You know what I think they should also do as well with this is I think that there's a lot of merit to them in terms of marketing this event in these little clips of people going up to pull the bounty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that having only 50 people do that is actually a missed opportunity.
Agreed.
They have 960 people or something that made day 2.
Yeah.
I think you should have 100 people who get to go up and pull a chest,
Right.
not
There you go.
50.
And the easiest way to do that is just disperse the extra
precisely,
million.
yeah. Disperse it more. You're going to get so many more interesting like reactions of people who go up, they pull the chest, they pull 50K or something, and it's super happy. So they're super happy.
If
They're
ever
super
there's
excited.
incentive to do it, it's after this one because the 2 people that won $1 million gave 0 reaction.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But then,
Especially the first one.
But then the person who pulled $500K and a $250K lost their shit.
And
They should.
And Roberto
They should.
Romanello was the one who pulled the 500K. He's a well-known pro. He's been around forever.
Yeah.
And he was still super excited. He was more excited than the 2 guys who pulled the $1 million who were Rex. Or
Yeah.
like the guys that we don't know.
He gave us a proper soccer response. Yes!
Yeah, well, he's a Welshman. He's got character, so
Right.
he's definitely the
it
one
here?
that you
He
wanted to
sweat it appropriately.
see?
Like,
Look
come
at that.
on. That's what we're
Look at
looking
that.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, that's
absolutely.
viral.
Now let's see the 1 million.
I ran around a room for
Dude, if you want to
25K.
see viral, let me win that fucking bounty. I will take my clothes off and run around.
Suddenly,
I would jump on tables. Like I would be.
Guapo
Guys.
becomes that Yinzer who dropped his pants at the main event and threw his shoe at the dealer.
Who would have a bigger reaction, Guapo or me? It'd be really close.
It'd be close. It'd
Yeah.
be different.
It'd be
very different.
Well, I'm not gonna take all my clothes
Oh,
off.
I'm taking my fucking clothes off.
Guys, for 25K,
He's just streaking.
for 25K, I ran around the room. And then I held it up and I was like, oh, none of you guys are getting this.
Well, that's because you were worth
That was at
exactly
Orleans.
you were worth exactly -$1
Right.
going into that pool.
And that was at the
It was-
Orleans.
yeah,
Who's pulling a
exactly.
$25,000?
It was at the Orleans and
I'm-
it'll never be seen or heard from again.
Nobody is up more than at the Orleans in poker tournaments than me.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean the $1 million pools were obviously incredibly underwhelming. I think the guy who pulled the 250K was great. Like you can actually play that one with sound because it was pretty funny. He went there as a man on the mission. Yeah.
Oh, he's the chip leader now.
Well, that's funny because listen to what he says.
my God! Dude, I fucking did it, dude! Fuck out of here, man.
This is just to get a pull out of the chest, by the way.
Oh, he hasn't won anything yet.
He hasn't won anything yet.
Oh wow!
This is just to pull an envelope.
This is for Mark.
Bro just knows.
Maybe it's $1 million.
The $1 million was still live.
You squeeze it. Which one is it? That's $250,000 fucking dollars.
Wait.
Bus boys. Let's go. Let's go. Now I take the tournament down too.
No, he's still chip leader.
Yes, I love it.
And that was your chip leader. That was with like 800 people left.
No, I take the tournament down to. It's the confidence. It's just like
I love it. I
I'm
love
telling
it.
you, there's something about it. It's just like
We want more of these. We want
when you
more of these
feel like-
reactions,
yeah,
man.
when you feel like you can't be beat, sometimes you just can't be beat.
Right. And also, it's just like, I would love to see them interject more of, like, they have the 1K and the 10K. The 10K is a fantastic event, but it's very much a secluded event. It's for like well-off recreationals and guys like me that can't be bothered with the 1K, right? Like, it's a fun gamble, but it's going to be like 500 people, you know? The 1K is obviously a huge, huge fucking hit. And granted, tagging $1 million guaranteed to the bounty is a big endeavor.
People love that.
But like,
Except for the guy who won it.
And I'm not saying we need to like oversaturate the schedule with this, but like, let's explore, you know, some other formats of this. Let's do $2,500 six max. Let's do. Look, I'm the biggest anti small buy-in guy here. But if you're gonna do small buy-ins, make them all fucking mystery bounties.
Honestly, they're fucking
$300 mystery bounty.
Yeah,
like make
like,
the gladiator a mystery bounty.
Yeah, make it $100K to
Yeah.
first. Like, because the thing is that one of the biggest things that I'm anti small buy-in over is obviously like how crippling the rake is, and you know, how much it's just like I don't know. It kind of diminishes the bracelet aspect, but it's different when you turn it into, I don't want to use the term circus, but like a marketing ploy, right? If you're going to turn it into something where like now all of a sudden you have like a 250K bounty and you're going to get these reactions because the type of players that are coming out to play at 300 are mostly recreational, that are just here for the World Series experience. Now it's not about the bracelet, right? It's about catching the 5 guys who became 6-figure winners by pulling a fucking lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Yeah.
Like, especially for us, it's like we're talking about the series every single day. Like, I would happily do this once a week. Just go through mystery bounty reactions.
Right.
Sure. You know what I mean?
I think they should actually have a panel of judges, and if your reaction isn't as exciting enough, you don't get the power.
They revoke the bounty.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you're like 1 million.
I thought
snag
I
that
thought
right
you were
from
going to
you,
say
give
the
it to somebody
judges would
else.
decide the best reaction, and that would get an extra $1 million.
That is good too.
No, they give you a 1 to 10 scale. So like, oh, that's a 7 out of 10. You only get 700,000.
Guys, could you imagine Platt just snatching somebody's bounty back like $1 million?
no.
You didn't do that right.
How do you feel when you go up there to pull the bounty and it's Jeff Platt with his Grim Reaper sigh?
You know what was funny is we were in the room doing it, and it was so consistent how, but once you get the chest pull, you know you're going to get at least 25K, right?
Yeah.
So you
Was it
go
25
up
or
and-
10?
It was 25.
Okay.
It was 25. And then the 2 millions, the millions are still out there, and so people go up and they pull a 25, and they're like so sad that they just won 25K.
Right, yeah.
Because they knew that there was a
You already got
possibility of it being
Yep.
more.
Yeah.
So there was so many, just like at the beginning, it was like 25, 25, everyone going up
Right.
and getting 25 and like being sad. And Jeff just like, well, you got 25K, and everyone's like half-heartedly applauding them. Like, no one really cares about the 25K now because it's the worst of the gold chests. And I always just felt like Jeff was like cursing these guys just by being there.
Well, the guy that won
curse.
the guy that won the 25 or the 250,000, he was excited because he knew he was getting at least 25K.
Yeah.
That's why he
Right.
was pumped just to get to the chest.
Yeah.
Then he got
Yeah.
the 10x on.
Yeah, I think that's the.
Did he get 500 or
you
you get 2?
You get 250.
He got 250.
250. Yeah.
Jake Brown was his name. He's the chip leader right now, so hopefully he takes it down and wins
Let's go,
another million.
Jake.
Man, I can't even begin to try to pronounce the guy who won the million and didn't even blink. It's Valentine. Well, I can get that one right, even though it's spelled non-phonetically.
Just show me his name. I can pronounce it.
Shabelnik?
Shabelnik.
Yeah. I fucking nailed it.
Pretty
Obviously.
close.
I mean,
3 syllables. Shabelnik.
okay.
Valentin Shabelnik.
You know, we're just throwing Y's around all willy-nilly here in this fucking name. Like, we use I's here, man. He's of Nordic descent, I assume.
I love that
he's of Eastern European descent. That's
he
not
took
a Nordic
Jeff's
name.
phone.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he grabbed. He must have thought it was his.
Oh, he grabbed the wrong phone.
He grabbed Jeff's phone.
This is the most emotion he's given. It's like, oh, he's embarrassed that he grabbed the wrong phone.
Right.
He's like, man, my backers are gonna be happy. I can't believe I sold 95% of this fucking event.
I mean, I'm sorry, but if I sold 90, if I only had 5% of myself in this, and I just made 50,000, that's pretty good. I'd be excited.
I guess if you're in a 1K and you only have 5% of yourself, you should be pretty happy with 50K.
Yeah.
I guess it depends what country he's from as well, because who knows what kind of exchange rate he's going to get on that million, or what kind of taxes.
Bro,
he's
the
gonna have to
dollar's
pay.
strong. He's getting like billions and billions of dollars of rubles.
Yeah, but I guess if you're from a country whose currency is collapsing, then I don't know how much that's going to help you.
You just
win a bunch
hold
of
the dollars. You don't have to
maybe
convert it
just do
back.
that. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Or
Bitcoin.
hey, Bitcoin.
It's always
You know,
one coin.
Get in.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
Yeah. It's never too late.
For
buy
those
a
of us
million in
holding, just
Bitcoin.
keep fucking buying,
Yep.
team.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a little rise here. The second one ended up going to DJ Buckley. I guess he's a reg who's kind of been on the circuit. I got a couple DMs saying like known DJ for a while.
I feel like that's a name I recognize.
Yeah.
He gave us a smile. You know, he knows. Maybe
Yeah.
he's just too rich.
Right.
Maybe he just has a few million. Just
But how
kinda
many
chilling.
million could you possibly? How many million do you have to have where you don't have the reaction of just plucking $1 million in a 1K?
You want to know something sick? If just all the people that plucked the millions in this tournament so far, like in the last couple of years,
Glance at
are all millionaires already?
that. Yeah. Well, I mean, Glance is a millionaire, and he reacted like as if it was his first found million.
Hey,
I mean, God bless
kudos to
him.
Glance because that
Yeah.
was a genuine great
That
reaction.
was incredible.
Yeah.
I don't even care if it was orchestrated.
Of course, that was the first one. So
Yeah.
if the first one ever, and someone was just like, it'd have been like, what the fuck is going on?
Lamanda, you're not going to like to hear this. This is a CSA.
Oh, boy.
It popped up on my timeline. MLB announces Tupachica
I saw.
Marcano has
Yep.
been banned from baseball.
To compete in Marcano.
Yeah. He bet on 25 Pittsburgh Pirate games.
What an idiot.
He gambled more than 150K on baseball and won just 4.3% of his MLB bets.
That's pretty fucking
imagine. I wonder if they're saying
Banned for life, right?
Do you think this means that he got 4% return? Like he had a 4% ROI?
Nah.
Or that he lost 95 points? You know how hard it is to
very
lose?
hard to lose
95.
That's really hard.
And he was betting on the Pirates.
I mean, maybe he was pulling a Conrad and he was doing like 20-team parlays.
Wait, he was betting on the Pirates?
yeah, he was betting on his own team. Well,
No wonder he lost 95%.
I mean, fuck. Maybe he was betting against
I think
them.
it's funny that they released the info about how many he won or lost, because there's been Premier League soccer players in the past year who've been done for gambling stuff, but they never released the info about how many they won or lost.
I'm
This is
sorry.
all public. I mean, it's not public information, but it's like through regulated sites. These people are doing it to like DraftKings.
I'm sorry,
Right.
but if your win rate is that low, let the man continue.
Yeah,
He's
right?
still in the organization, right? I mean, he was up to this.
Well, he
point.
was, yeah.
Right, yeah. He wasn't on the major league squad. I don't
funny-
think he was on a 40-man
It's funny that he
roster.
was betting on his own team to win, because one of the Premier League players who got done for it, Ivan Toney, was betting on his own team to lose, but in games that he wasn't playing in. Like he got injured, and then he
Right.
started betting on his team to lose. So it was like, well, I'm not playing, so you guys are obviously going to
must
lose.
suck.
Yeah, so like, he
I
just
got a
bet
CSA.
against his own team.
Another CSA.
I got a CSA.
And not back to back.
400K at 10K. Let's get it popping, Landy.
Oh shit!
Let's
yes.
go.
Yes.
So that was the.
go.
Wow, let's go, man.
We
He's
need,
fun.
a good one.
we need second to cap out the crossbook.
Landon started today with 13 big blinds in the 1500 6 max. They are in the money. And great news, J-Back's 0 for 2 in the 1500 and also 0 for 2 in the 1100 at, I think, the win.
I believe.
So the latest Landon J-Back's crossbook update was about a 9K delta going in favor of Becker. That's going to get wiped. Becker's going to be down to 0 in profit, and Landon's probably going to be at least even by the end of today.
Yeah, there's 170 people left.
Okay, so it sounds like we're
How many
about
bigs does he have
168
now?
away.
40.
Bro,
Okay.
He's cooking on some serious
cooking on
gas.
Bro, he's-
What's so sick is
Suck
if,
on
if
this
we
gas.
added an extra like 2 weeks or a month to that crossbook, it would be like Landon would be 400K ahead. You know, like
they both fucking played the event too.
So
Yeah.
sick.
Like it's so gross that like just at any point anyone could have just been like, "You guys want to put Florida on too?" You know, just for shits and gigs.
a little starter.
Just a little warm up for the series. You guys just want to throw Florida in there? Why not? Let's just throw Florida in there.
It's definitely pretty sick that like Landon could easily end up having a way better 2024 than J-Bex, but J-Bex could win the bet.
Yeah, I was
It
thinking
would
about
suck
this.
that
That's right. They would
happened.
only been capped at 250K. So.
Yeah, I mean, what's a 250K head start,
Right.
Brian? You know,
He
who
would
needs
have been
that?
the full 550. Come on.
Who needs that? I was thinking about it today when I was showering, and I was like, you know, I think that people forget how much variance is involved, and that there's a high probability. I would say it's like maybe somewhere around half the time this bet is settled where they both have a losing summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's like that's odd. To say
Yeah,
the least.
I've been saying that the funniest outcome would be one of them wins by a lot, but by having a break-even summer, and the
Yeah.
other one just gets wrecked.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that would
just
be
like
like
minus
kind of
200K.
hilarious in
Yeah.
a twisted way.
in a very sad way. Like imagine doing that victory lap at the end of the
right.
summer.
Like I had a break-even summer, you guys. I won.
Right.
Only lost 15K. He
Yeah.
got fucking mopped for 185.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's also.
I wouldn't care.
Or
I'd be
one
sitting there, I'd be
breaks
counting every
even,
penny.
One breaks even, and then the other one gets wrecked, and then he gets double wrecked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Like the other thing that I thought was interesting is that with the 250K cap per event, is it? I know that you guys probably didn't consider this, but is it possible that there's some element of like it might be higher EV to specifically choose events where first place is going to be as close to 250 as possible, but not over, because any additional money that you make on top of that, you're not making as part of the crossbook.
Yeah.
Like the highest EV for the crossbook is
No,
to play
because-
something where first place is exactly 250, right?
Not necessarily. So we have a 100K bonus for any bracelet won in a
okay,
mutually played event.
Okay,
That helps.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
And then also it's just like, yeah, the additional money won doesn't help the crossbook at all, but
It's
still
additional money. Yeah.
yeah, it just still helps everything involving the bet. Like it's still additional funds and resources Landon
Yeah.
can gamble with.
Yeah, that's true.
You basically don't want to ever send your horse out into a lower EV spot than he could otherwise chase.
Yeah, of course, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any downside to winning the additional money.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's 500K to first,
Yeah, of course.
all that means is that we can get a lesser place than first place and hit the cap.
Yeah.
which I think that's pretty good too.
Yeah, that's actually, I didn't even think of that. That is really good. That there some events you don't have to win.
Yeah, like we were talking about like whether or not, because it's 10K and below, or I mean, I think we did like 10K or 11K just to make it all the 10Ks count. And we were talking about like if each of them want to do 25Ks being on, like say that JBEX is going to play the 25K 6 max on Thursday and Landon's not. If JBEX wants that on, we were discussing the merits of like letting that happen. And I was like, yeah, we should just like allow that because why not? You know, it's hard to cash events.
Yeah.
And that's just like 25K in our pocket every time he bricks. And the counter to that was like, yeah, but like, you know, he might only have to get like 6th to hit the cap. And it's like, okay. So get 6th. Like it's a, you know, it's then if we think it's so easy to get 6th, then we should just play the event too.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it's like, I don't think there's ever any way to game the system that we've set up.
The cap. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a question as well. When it comes to the main event specifically, what place would one of them have to get to hit the cap?
I actually know this.
Yeah.
Because I looked at the calculator.
It's like 40th, right?
It's roughly where I finished. Yeah, like 41st, somewhere around there.
Okay. That's kind of cool because that means that any kind of deep sweat in the main, like, is a really big deal for the bet.
Really
big sweat. Really big deal,
especially
for the bet.
if one of them like doesn't cash, right? Now the other one's like making it deeper and deeper,
As soon as
and
one
it's
of
just
the-
all this money, just jump after jump after jump after jump.
Yeah.
Imagine they're like really close going into the main, and then one of them busts the main, and the other one's still in, and you're like you're sweating like.
Well, the other one's now like cranking out volume all around town, right?
Right.
Because there's a bunch of post limbs that are like a little turbo-y, and it's just like I gotta play it all.
Right.
Yeah, man. There could be.
It's gonna be fun.
There could be some really sick scenarios that would emerge for this, like towards the end of the summer. There really could.
I have to tell you, like, as a podcaster, I want every one of those 6 scenarios to present themselves because it's interesting. It keeps us talking. You know, it's a fun sweat.
As someone has a lot.
As somebody who has a lot of fucking money on the line, I just really want Landon to run away with this thing.
So here's someone asked me the other day how much money you had riding on this, and I didn't know what to answer.
I don't either.
The
truth of the matter is, it's like because like the truth is with how exposed I am percentage wise, and then the side bets. It could be, I would say, like, it's a minimum of, like, 50K because I have so many of the does he win or does he lose type of bets.
Right.
Where I'm getting later price. So, like, I'm getting, like, 110 on just Landon winning straight up. And I probably have, like, I don't know, 30 to 50K worth of action there. And then with the actual crossbook, it's like I have a huge chunk of it. And on the tails, that chunk might be worth like 7 figures, right? In either direction, where, you know, somebody just wins 3 bracelets and hits the cap like 3 to 5 times over the course of the summer. It's like, well, I could win or lose maybe $1 million. But when you like look at the bell curve distribution, like the average distribution, like one standard deviation away from the mean, I'm probably like only gambling 8 to 10K.
Yeah, that's
you know,
wild.
it's like it's just it should finish often with a non-event.
That's funny. Because the answer I gave, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I remember answering that it was a lot, but I was thinking of it in the terms of the extremes of the crossbook.
Correct.
Because I didn't know the specifics of which bets you had with which people.
Yeah.
And I know you have a bet with Vanessa.
Yeah.
How big is that bet individually?
She's laying me 11% to her 10.
Yeah.
So it's not that big.
But it's not for like 6 figures or something, right?
No. It's not.
I was wrong about that one.
It's not straight up. It's I have 11% of Landon's action. She has 10% of JBEX.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a straight crossbook. But initially it had a chance to be big because she wanted to do mutually played with basically no cap. So the initial cap was 2 million.
Yeah.
Which is effectively no cap. And then we discussed it more as like everything got fleshed out, and she's just like, it's too annoying to look at, you know, because we were going to still do mutually played with, and she's like, you know, I think like the cap now hurts me if we're doing like all events, because Landon might just play like more high roller stuff, like more 10K stuff. She's like, I don't know his schedule. I don't want to gamble on that. Like there's a big asymmetry between high stakes stuff. I was like, yeah, whatever, fine. We can just follow the spirit of the DNEGS bet, which is now 250K cap. So that one actually ends up being a lot smaller than what we initially booked, I think. Then I have another one that is a full 100% crossbook. where I have Landon and he has JBEX, and I'm getting either 1.1 or 1.15 on that. So I'm either getting 110% or 115% of Landon. I can't recall. But that one caps out at 150K.
Okay.
It doesn't settle to the end of the summer. But like if one person goes off, for $1 million, it won't matter.
Right. Yeah.
The ceiling is capped. And honestly, like that was the right way to do it, I think, rather than maybe capping each individual event, is to just
cap the ceiling so you know exactly how much you're risking.
Yeah, because then like
at this point you have no idea how much you could possibly be risking.
1% of the time I might lose $1 million.
Yeah.
But like 99% of the time I'm probably risking anywhere from like 5 to 100K maybe.
Yeah.
It's like it's wildly different.
Yeah. I think that was why I didn't know what answer to give.
Yeah.
I think I said something, and I think my eventual answer was like maybe mid 6 figures or something.
Yeah.
But I was, like I say, I didn't consider that it's like the average outcome is really minimal, and then the tails are so extreme.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
It's it's gonna be a really, really, really fun sweat. Like the excitement around this bet is the sweat.
Yeah.
Because it's like the mystery million. There's one extreme prize, but 99% of the time you end up just like plucking a minimum bounty.
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing with this event where it's, and we can already kind of see it trending that way, where it's like JBEX starts out with a 10K head start and everybody's like, oh shit. Like, and I'm just like, buddy,
Relax.
it's week 1. They're going to fire 10,000 worth of buy-ins over the next 4 days.
Right.
Like, do you guys have any idea how much pain is associated with playing it? I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not fucking going. Like, I get it. I need to spread the pain out.
Right.
One event a week at most. Sometimes once every 2 weeks. We'll see.
Depending on how that event goes, it may not be another event for another month.
Right. Right.
If there's too much pain.
Yes. You're spot on, Hunt. Couldn't be more correct. All right, let's get to this week's In the Muck. All right.
El Guapo.
Guapito.
9 YouTube
hand from the
subscribers.
Academy, and Mr. Hunt was narrating, so we'll let him take over here.
Manuel with pocket 7s, very good raise. A very reasonable raise. Guapo's hand actually can mix between calls and 3-bets here. I would like to see him 3-bet it. He calls. That's fine, but I would like to see the aggression. Ooh, interesting flop. Clear check for Guapo. What is going on with all this donk betting today? This is wild. This is not a donk bet board. You do not have a range advantage here. Not even close, in fact. You can almost never have 2 pair here. Both players can have all the sets. I'm not sure what we're seeing here. Manuel just needs to raise. I think you could possibly call this hand, but if in doubt, just raise. Like, I would just raise to whatever you would have bet if he had checked. 40 is okay. You could raise a little bigger. Guapo calls, which he has to. Ironically, this is now a situation where maybe you could find some donk leads because you can have 6-4 and Manuel probably can't. But it's a very weird spot. Very, very weird spot now. Just needs to find a pretty big bet here, Manuel does. Yep, I like that. 110 is good. That's a good size. Manuel's bet sizing has been really good so far, I think, overall. I think he, more so than almost anybody else, I think he seems to kind of intuitively understand bet sizing in a pretty solid way. Guapo has to call, pair in a straight draw. Now this should go check and then like check big bet. Honestly, it could go check all in. Guapo's range is still probably somewhat capped. Not really very easy to assign very many straights in his range. I think Manuel's just counting up. Oh, is he going to shove? Is he going to shove? Yes, I like it. I like that a lot. That's really good. That is a really, really good shove, Manuel. And now Guapo's caged. Guapo is in a really terrible spot because he has a bluff catcher with a blocker to the straight. But, oh no. No, Guapo. What's going on? 2x pot. Great line. Great line, Manuel. All right.
Oh no!
No!
I was way too harsh on that.
Oh no, Guapo, no! I gotta clip
I think
that.
the main reason for that reaction was
what are you doing, Guapo?
and the main reason for that reaction was the call was really quick on the river. Like if you had tanked for like a full minute, I would have understood it a lot more. But I think the quick call was like, wow, slow down, because how, like, is he really going to find the bluffs here? That was the main thing there. For me.
I think that's where we should probably start the conversation, even though, like, obviously flop and turn are a little bit more intricate in what we can discuss. When it comes to the river, I think it's interesting because I instinctually, or instinctively. Yeah. That's what I'm doing. I'm merging the two, as I like to do. Instinctually, 5-4 in my head made for a really good call.
I thought so too.
But now that I'm kind of like rethinking it, I think we want to have more of a hand like 7-8, or like 9-7, maybe. Like, of course he has 9-8 as a bluff, but it makes for a pretty bad bluff, I think. I think like he wants to block your calls when he's 2x pot jamming, right? Like 9-8's a good river bluff, but it's a good river bluff for like pot. When he's 2.2xing or 2.5xing, I think he really has to be blocking hands like 7-5, pocket 5s, pocket 7s, pocket 2s. So I think his bluffs are, like Matt said, going to be very unintuitive. Hands like ace deuce that maybe play this way. Hands like what you have, 5-4, that perhaps played this way. And then 6-5, I think. That's probably it.
Yeah.
Like, I think those are like the...
I think there's going to be, like, a lot of this is going to depend on, does he take over pairs and just go for it all on the river? You know, because...
Interesting.
Something we talked about, I think, right after this is that, I think we talked about it in our group chat, like, Guapo is condensed enough to one pair because he can't have... There's a lot of 2 pairs that he can't have here. Like, he can't have the offsuit versions of really any of the 2 pairs here. Right. He can't have 10-7 off, 7-5, 7 deuce, 7-3, 5-3. All that offsuit stuff is not in there. And a lot of the 2 pair that's suited might choose to potentially raise turn, or maybe it doesn't donk the flop, like stuff like that. So I feel like if Manuel can take even... I mean, 8s would be super thin, but like even... like all of his jacks plus and stuff like that, it's possible he could take this line with those. And if he does that, now it increases the number of bluffs we need to find, like, really significantly.
I think we're discrediting a lot of Guapo's range, though. He has 5-3 suited in full, 7-5 suited in full, 6-4 suited in full, ace-4 suited in full.
Right, but that's what, like 10 combos? Like, that's not that many compared to all the other stuff that he has.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he also has sets of 2s, 5s, and 7s. Yeah. Again, all in full, so that's another 9 combos. He'll have pocket 3s some of the time.
I guess this is where I would slightly push back that they're all in full, because I think some frequency they 3-bet flop, some frequency
they yes. Yeah. Sorry. I just meant pre-flop.
Right.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
He exits the flop with these some of the time. You're correct.
Right.
But again, like when he leads, the lead 3-bet is really rare, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the lead itself is like...
So it's does he even lead these hands is a better question.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in more depth when we go into the flop, but I think that the flop being weird is the reason for the rest of the hand being weird.
Agreed.
And that puts us in a bluff catching spot where by river, because it's plausible that Manuel can just take one pair and just fire off, because Guapo's quite often going to have just a 7 or just like 5-4, like exactly what he has.
Yep.
Like that makes it a requirement that we now have to be able to find not just the slightly unintuitive bluffs like the ace deuce, but like the really unintuitive random king queen that just blasts off. Like, there's going to have to be some stuff in here that does just blast off, because if you looked at like...
I think it would be more the ace high stuff based off of the texture, but, but you're
certainly,
probably right.
But like, I think if you looked at this, like, let's say Guapo checked the flop and Manuel bet the size that he raised to. So he bet 40 on the flop.
I would have check raised a bunch.
Well,
I mean, you can check raise a decent frequency there for sure.
I mean, obviously it would be better, right, guys, if I had diamonds. What am I looking at here? Diamonds.
You have the wrong combo to
Yeah.
Right,
You have the wrong
Yeah,
combination.
this hand just calls.
Backdoor flush draw as well.
But like,
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is if we ignore the donk bet and we just assume that Manuel had bet the flop for 40, the bluffs that would fire 3 streets would include at least some just like pure unblocker stuff.
Right.
Like a queen jack high or like some
For sure,
frequency
for
of stuff
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
And if that had been the line that he took, if he went like 80%, 100% or 90% or whatever it was, and then all in for 2.5x pot, we would definitely look at this spot and say, like, is he really going to find those bluffs?
Right.
And I think that it's the same spot when we donk bet the flop and we get here. Like, we have to look at the river and say, like, is he really going to find those bluffs? Especially when, you know, a hand like 5-4 of spades, it's plausible that having a 4, even though we block 6-4 and we block ace-4, we also might be blocking some of the hands that bluff the turn. Like, we might be blocking some small portion of like king 4 suited or something that
Or
manages
just
to find a
pocket
turn bluff.
fours.
Yeah, like that we might be blocking some stuff that's not good as well. And we're also unblocking every single overpair. So I think
I assume having his exact combo though is pretty reasonable when it comes to blocking 4x. Like, I would imagine that the non-backdoor flush draws bluff a lot less for Manuel on the flop.
Yeah, I mean, I think the having the 4 with spades is pretty consequential because it's the least likely combo of ace-4 or 6-4 to raise the flop.
Right. Well, Manuel should have no 6-4, but yeah, I know
Well,
what
he
you're
opened
saying.
cutoff, like he might have 6-4 suited.
Yeah. I'm just looking at like prescribed
Sure, yeah.
ranges here.
I think that basically, like, having the 4 of spades is slightly less meaningful than any other 4. And having a 5 it blocks some value in that it blocks like the 7-5 suited, it blocks pocket 5s, but it also might block some bluffs.
Right.
And I think really I'm just more concerned about, like, all the overpairs are still out there and we can be at least somewhat confident that there's some possibility he just goes for it all with an overpair here.
Yeah, I guess that's where I slightly disagree. Like, I think jamming an overpair here is greedy, like really greedy. You have to have a high
It's
degree
funny
of
because
confidence.
I'm pretty sure you were the one that brought that up in our group chat. I'm going to look that up.
Well, because I very well may have been, but it's because against nonsense lines, I'll get greedy.
Right, okay.
Because I think they just touch the board.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to look it through my eyes, you know. Like,
Sure.
I just get more action than most. Like, I'll get called by a 7 or a 5 more than most people will. So my lens is very skewed. But I'm just more so thinking from a theory line. I would imagine this 2 sizes river, and we just get to jam like 2 pair plus for value, and then like good blocking hands for bluffs, and then we're gonna play like pot with overpairs, and then our 8-9s and like our nonsense.
That would probably be more what I would expect how I would expect this to play in theory, I guess. Yeah.
All right, so let's get then to the flop lead, because this is where everything kind of goes a little bit awry.
Yeah.
I agreed with you. I didn't expect to see any leading here, but we had a pretty interesting discussion off air that I think is worth bringing up. So we have no leads here, as you can see in a no rake sim. But the second we make this a high rake sim, which this is now 50 NL.
Which is what I ran, right?
Yeah. You can see that it actually leads at quite a high frequency. So 17.7%. And it's not a range lead, but like most hands in range do find a bet here at some frequency.
Yeah, I think what you tend to see with these lead spots is that the leading range ends up being quite linear in that it's like if you look at the equity buckets on the right-hand side, in the filters.
Oh, yeah.
And if you just scroll down that portion so that we can see the bottom, you can kind of see where it has best hands, good hands, weak hands. There's no trash hands, first of all, because there's no hands in our range that are weak enough. But you can see that the best hands bar is more full of orange than the good hands, and then the good hands is more full of orange than the weak hands. And that illustrates kind of a slightly more linear range. If you saw that the weak hands bar had more orange than the good hands, it would be a slightly more polar leading approach. And you do see fairly linear leading ranges here because you're just kind of pushing your equity in these spots where you are donking out, and you're okay with checking the very bottom of your range because for the most part, those hands have very low EV and they're mostly not going to be able to continue one way or the other. And you know, you're mostly checking just to take that free equity when they check back.
I think the big important point that you emphasized off air that's worth mentioning here is that the ranges aren't constructed that differently. It's based strictly off of rake, right? So my impression was that like rake ranges were going to be significantly tighter through a call, and that since we were going to exit so many hands pre-flop through a 3-bet, that's why we weren't going to be afforded leads in the non-rake environment. But the truth is, the ranges are actually compiled rather closely. Like the equities of both ranges are about 48%. The reason why the reason why we see leads here in the high rake range that you kind of spoke to off air is due to the impact of rake post flop. You don't reach the cap pre. So in a single raise pot, you're nowhere near the cap of what the rake is. And what Hunt was basically saying is that, well, you're incentivized to lead because every time you bet and take down the pot, you avoid any further rake. And that's a really important aspect of strategy, because now you're talking about adding maybe fractions of a big blind to your win rate based off of just simply not playing a check, bet, call, check down line.
Right.
That is now being maybe max raked.
That makes more sense to me, because I was having trouble understanding why when I ran the sim, it wants me to do one thing and rake versus no rake.
Right.
And it does make sense to just want to take it down right there on the flop.
You can actually, I think, if you were to rerun the same sim with the same ranges and just remove the rake, you can see that.
Yeah, so here we have the choose rake, we have with rake. If we just go no rake here now, I'm pretty sure it's going to be no leads.
Let's see. This is moment of truth stuff.
It might be like 1%.
Do this off it. Come on, no leads.
I'm really
Watch
confident.
go up.
I'm like extremely confident we're going to see no leads.
I'm a fish. Oh, it's really making us sweat.
Yeah, quit.
I know.
It just completely quit on us.
Wow. Oh, you're a fish. You said it.
Yeah, I know. I really don't know why it's gone up. I don't know why it's gone up.
I don't either. Because the range construction is not that different. Like, if we look at the two ranges here,
Wappa's a genius.
We can just look at ranges.
So could it be something to do with when we check with no rake, we're gonna face maybe more aggression or less I'm trying to think about like
we're wider with no rake. That's the biggest thing. You can see we have all these offsuit combos that we don't have in the rake sim.
Maybe that's why. You have more
did we
two pair.
when we just changed it, when we ran the same ranges with no rake, we didn't change the ranges there, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we still don't have the offsuit stuff here, right?
Correct. This is still a raked construction
ranges without the rake.
So what actually ends up happening is the equity changes ever so slightly. You can see that it's a little bit closer here. It's 51 to 48.7, and here the equities are where am I at?
Yeah,
47 to 53. So it's much closer to 50-50 in the rake sim environment. And you can see that it's not even that there are that many more hands in range. It's like 400 to 350 or 335. So maybe 18% difference in range construction. But really what it comes down to is the way that it's constructed. So this range is like kind of everywhere. It has some of this offsuit stuff. It does a lot of 3-betting with the Fantastic Four, where the rake range, pure calls. Just like almost all of this stuff, and then eliminates the offsuits. So a lot, like you can see, this is really linear in its calling, whereas in the no rake environment, we're 3-betting incredibly linear.
Yeah.
Right.
So are we 3-betting? We're 3-betting more polar in the raked environment. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might be having a reasonably significant influence.
Yeah, significantly more polar. It's like not even remotely close. We basically have just like all middle range hands in the rake environment, with like getting capped out at ace queen, where in the no rake, ace queen suited is like never in there. King queen suited only a third of the time. So we're capped at like ace queen off, but then we just have like, the ace 6 pure 3-bets, the ace deuce ace 3 like pure 3-bets.
Yeah.
The Fantastic Fours.
It kind of looks like it is. I guess the point that I made about the importance of not paying rake just isn't really the reasoning here. I think that it looks like that it's just
the range
much
construction
more to do with the ranges.
It's still predicated on the rake though, right? Like we can't lose that point.
That the pre-flop ranges are predicated on the existence
we can't
of
lose
rake,
the forest for the trees. Everything is still being predicated off of rake.
Yeah.
It's just the post-flop rake isn't the consideration.
Yeah.
It's actually just how you construct pre.
If you look at the pre-flop construction, a lot of the 3-bets from the big blind here, it looks like they're coming from a lot of the suited kings, queens, and jacks.
Yep.
Instead of the the very mixed, like those suited connector regions
Right.
in the no rake ranges.
Also, the opening range is slightly different. It's slightly altered for Manuel.
I think a pretty significant factor here is the fact that when you reduce all of that suited king stuff, suited queen, suited jack stuff to lower frequency in the raked ranges because they're 3-betting at some rate, that's actually taking away a big chunk of the weakest portion of the big blinds range. So that's, I think, what's contributing to the big blinds range being more concentrated in that lower card area. It's not just that we're not really 3-betting those suited connectors anymore. It's that we're also 3-betting more of the high card, low card suited stuff that misses this board pretty much altogether.
Right, we're actually the tighter range. We're actually the tighter range in the rake environment. You can see he has 368 combos to our 335. In the no rake environment, we have 400 to his 360.
Yeah.
So in the no rake environment, we're just simply wider, right? And before we press on with the actual in the muck here, I think this is a strategy point that is really worth hammering home for the audience, because this kind of goes back to the conversation we were having yesterday about how impactful is using tools like GTO Wizard in between hands to cram, to study, right?
Yeah.
You can see how nuanced this process is, right? Like the info that you put in, the variables that you are assigned to fulfill as the user drastically alter outputs and strategies. And what you run, what you study, and what you execute on is going to look different person to person. So Guapo has a leading range on 7-5 deuce. Hunt and I think that that's absolutely ridiculous. And we're going to respond to it as though that's not a thing. But there's a world where it is a thing. And if Guapo's playing raked ranges in a non-raked environment, Hunt and I might just get wrecked.
Right. And a big part of it is predicated on how that big blind 3-bet range is constructed. And you could hear me on commentary saying he can mix 3-bets pre.
Right, which you can see in the non-raked environment 50% of the time.
Exactly right.
In the raked environment, pure call.
We just basically pure call it. So I'm starting from the assumption of the no rake environment. But if that assumption is incorrect and suddenly there's a different starting point if we're playing raked ranges, it totally shifts what all those pseudo connectors do, which in turn totally shifts how this flop plays out. So it's one variable, which is just the rake versus no rake. It's influencing a lot of different things. And when you start out at a different point, when Guapo starts out at using raked ranges, when I start out at using no rake ranges, we arrive at two very different strategies because it influences a lot of factors.
So let's dig a little bit deeper into that, because I think that this is a point of inflection where a lot of people listening who are maybe new to study or have maybe only been studying one way very rigidly of like, okay, this is my environment. Like, like similar to Guapo. Guapo knows his raked ranges incredibly well, right? Like he's been playing online raked for quite some time. So that's the fixture in how he approaches these spots. How then does that translate to real world where it's not so kind? Everybody isn't operating off of the construction that you've studied, right? How applicable then are the strategies that you're pulling from all of your study if there are inconsistencies based off of one simple variable, which is starting range?
Yeah, I think what this kind of speaks to is that a big part of studying, really, at least for me, one of the most important parts of studying is understanding what influence each variable has on the outputs. So recognizing that if you study two different situations and you're changing two variables at once, you no longer have a reliable guide as to which variable is causing a change in output. So you don't know if you change the stack size and the preflop range, you don't know which one is causing a change in the output. If you only change one variable, now you can get a very clear sense of what the effect of that individual variable is. So for example, what we did here, removing the rake but keeping the ranges the same, that immediately gave us a starting point of what effect the rake actually has. And it was the opposite of what we expected. So in order to dig in to find out exactly why this is, it would take us a long time. We would have to go deeper into this than we probably have time for on this pod. But it's a good study sort of process to look at it as your goal is to really understand when you're in game, you're taking in a whole bunch of different variables, and you want to know, or you want to have as clear of a perspective as you can on what impact each variable is going to have on your overall strategy. So if you can approach studying from the perspective of trying to learn what effect each variable has, what effect does the preflop range have, what effect does my opponent's overall tendency have, et cetera, then you can start to build a framework of where your adaptations are going to go. But if you're trying to factor in 5 different variables at once, it's very difficult to layer those on top of each other in a way that can actually create a good strategy.
Right. So I think that's an excellent answer for very studious people that approach the game from a let's call it like a theorist perspective, right? Like, I think that there are theorists and there are practitioners. And theorists are generally those who are studying for discovery purposes. That's how they learn. That's how they build things, right? They are constantly doing comparative analysis. They're looking at 2 identical sims with 1 variable changed between the 2, and they're trying to see what that ripple effect will lead into through deeper nodes, right? For the majority of people, though, they're going to be practitioners. They're going to be learning strategy second-handedly through theorists. They're going to be, or coaches of some sort that are maybe a blend. They're going to be doing their own practical study, but it's very rarely going to be as deep as like what Hunt just described. And I think for the practitioner, what's most important here is just understanding the overall cursory view of poker, in that it is dependent, right? And what I mean by that is that it's the butterfly effect. It's chaos theory. Each variable is dependent upon the last. So I think the best that most of us can do is to fundamentally develop a sound strategy based off of our own personal knowledge of our game. So for like Guapo, if he doesn't know non-rake ranges, he should play raked ranges because he knows them, right? Like, he shouldn't try to adjust. He should try to adjust, but that adjustment should come off the felt, looking at actual non-rake sims, trying to figure out how they expand and contract, doing a lot of the discovery work that I'm kind of suggesting.
It's hard to adjust in real time.
In real time, you're just guessing, right? Yeah. So why abandon the strategy that you've already worked so diligently on putting into practice? It's almost certain that you're going to be giving up more EV by trying to make an on-the-fly adjustment and now having too many hands or too few hands in nodes that you previously had full control over your range on, right? So I think the best thing that anybody can really do is to have a sound comprehension of their strategy from the entry point, from node 1, which is pre-flop. If you know to a T what your frequencies are pre-flop, how your range is constructed, now play donks on 7-5 deuce because it allows for it, right? And let them try to respond. The thing is that you will have to now adjust, let's say, to their response, because their range isn't going to be what you studied. It's not going to be like, oh, well, they get to play raise with X. All you need to know is the principles of what they are, quote unquote, allowed to do, right? When he donks, he knows he's going to face raise. And he knows that the raise should be carved out of a range of X, right? Now, it doesn't matter if the range he's up against is tighter or wider or theoretically spot on to what he studied in the past. All that matters is that core range that's supposed to be raising is somewhat intact. And the second that core range that's supposed to be raising is too wide or too tight, now Guapo gets to make an exploitative adjustment. And it has nothing to do with having the knowledge previously of, okay, we're both playing non-raked ranges, or we're both playing raked ranges, or whatever the case may be, right? It's just practical knowledge and understanding of how the game tree flows from decision to decision. So sure, if you're trying to eke out every single penny of EV, you have to have some degree of confidence that the environment you're in is cooperative and that everybody's doing what you've studied. But that's not the real world. The real world's chaotic. We're going to be up against guys that are just not looking at both cards before they open pre. They're going to be doing all kinds of wild shit. So we need to be able to adjust on the fly. And the easiest way to do that is maintain control over our strategy. And I think that this, we're way off onto a tangent of actually doing strat chat instead of instead of in the
funny
muck.
the way it works,
But I think that this is a really, really important point when it comes to studying No Limit Hold'em, because if you actually are a practitioner, somebody who's just looking to be able to execute on a strategy, go out there, put in your 2,000 hours on the felt, and confidently make decisions that you believe are making money. If you're that type of person and you force yourself down the rabbit hole of trying to be a theorist, you're going to go insane. Because there are endless variables to compare, right? And Hunt's naturally curious, and he's very good at this process. He's carved out a list of protocols that are important to him that he can do compare and contrast analysis and come to some larger conclusions, right? And he's gonna be very good at that. And I'm very similar to Hunt. Like, I don't care that much about specific details. I don't care about like getting things incorrect by a frequency of 1 or 2% or whatever. I care about how the game moves, right? Like, how is this adjustment going to correct it? And that's important to me, to get oversight. But that doesn't have to be you at home or the vast majority that are playing this game. That's why we exist as coaches, right? We do all that hard work in order to try to break it down into simple terms of like, okay, well, if your opponent's doing this and it's an overreaction, you get to counter by doing this. And that's where all the exploits come into play. So I really think that like accidentally we've backed into a really fucking important study mechanism that most people probably just largely get wrong, and they get too wrapped up in the nuance, I think like DTO is a fantastic tool, for example. But when I play it, I'm just like overwhelmed because it's like blunder. And I'm like, how could it possibly be a mistake here to do this thing? And it's like, wow, you have an inaccuracy here of your size was off by 5% or your frequency was off by 5% or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, that's not for me. I'm not looking to be perfect. I'm looking to be consistent, right? I want to be able to execute with confidence, because especially in the live world, that's truly what it all comes down to.
Yeah, execution is king.
All right, let's evaluate this then from the sim where leading is allowed. And I hate to use the word allowed, but where leading is incentivized.
How often does 5-4 spades lead specifically?
It's the least of all of them.
Yeah,
and Guapo kind of knew that, I think.
Because I don't have the backdoor flush draw.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why I wouldn't fit a check raising candidate. So an easy hack for those of you at home is when you have a board that incentivizes you to lead or donk as the out of position defender, you can build that range off of the hands that would otherwise check raise, right? So the practical thing that I try to tell students is, if you want to build a donking range, don't worry about building a check raise range, right? Just donk instead of check raising.
That's my hack. You stole that.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh.
You got that from me. I was the first one to say that at the academy.
I believe you. I've been on this since like when we used to do the Elite Academy.
Yeah.
I used to interchange them in the sense that like, if it was when we would look at dynamic textures like Queen 8-10, I would say don't build a check raising strategy. Check call donk instead. So just wait for a brick and then lead.
I'm looking at it as any board where, like the way I always explain it is boards where your opponent is going to bet a lot if you check. You don't need to have donks, and therefore you should study
just
check
build
raises.
A check raise.
Build your check raise.
Yeah.
If your opponent is not going to bet a lot when you check, then you need to have bets. You need to have donks or out of position C bets or whatever it is. And when that's the case, you don't also need to have check raises, because you lose almost no EV by playing pure check call as soon as you check. Like once you check, your opponent knows you're never raising. Doesn't really cost you any EV, because if it's a board where you were considering betting out of position anyway, it's a good board for your range, which means your opponent doesn't get to just wreck you just because you're never check raising.
Right. And they also don't know you're not check raising.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think like in general, you almost never have to build 3 strategies on a street, right? Yes. Like if you have 2 sizings, you're probably not playing check. If you have 1 size and a check, again, that's only 2 ranges. If you're donking, then you're probably not check raising. If you're check raising, then you're probably not donking, that kind of stuff. So you can just build it from the same core of hands. 5-4 spades obviously is the least frequent lead, but I do think it's in there because of what we'll talk about on the river, where having the 4 spades is probably neutral to slightly positive as far as like bluff catching goes. So he does play quarter pot. and Manuel responds. How much did he raise to?
He raised to 40, so he raised quite small.
Very small. Okay, so you can see the raising range is quite polar, and actually prefers a very large size here. So it's raising here to about pot.
Yeah.
And it's building that around sets. Sets just want to funnel as much money in as possible. Overpairs are there, but like
not a high frequency.
Right, the ones that need the most protection. Yeah, 9s, 10s, 8s.
If you change the sizes, if you change Manuel's size, if you change Guapo's size to 1.5 instead of 1.3, and then the raise size to 40, I think the overpairs will start to raise more.
I agree
because
with you.
With the small raise size, you would think that they would now be able to raise for a bit more thin value. It also might slightly decrease Guapo's donks.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's increased them. What the hell is going on with this sim, man? This is such a weird, unpredictable sim.
It did decrease the raise size.
That's the checking line.
Yeah. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, so it did decrease the raise size. Now it's half pot.
Okay. So that's to 5.6, but that's still bigger than what he actually went.
He went to 4, right?
To 4, yeah.
Yeah. But you can see the overpairs are lighting up now.
Yeah.
And it's going to be even more so at 4. 4's kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
You need to be bluffing a lot to go 4,
right.
I think.
And I think this is kind of my when it actually went. It didn't go down, but it like didn't
About
change that much. Yeah. Like I think part of my issue here once we get to river is look at all the hands that are supposed to raise flop to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Look at all some of the weird bluffs that he's supposed to find. He's supposed to find the queen 6. He's supposed to find like the jack 10 off, like some random ace highs, you know, stuff like that. Ace 7, or no, not ace 7, ace 6, I guess, is in there.
Yeah.
Oh no, not
queen 6 is a big one.
Ace 8 and ace 9 are the ones I'm looking at. Queen 6, like pocket 4s, ace queen off, like that, ace king off, like those are super weird, right? Like it's really rare.
I mean, those are. I think that those are like bordering on value raising.
Yeah, exactly. But whether or not they're bordering on value on the flop, it still amounts to a portion of range that he's unlikely to arrive at the river with, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's just a lot of stuff that's supposed to exist in this range that probably doesn't. And in reality, I think if you locked this to where the overpairs were like very high frequency raise on the flop, you would start to see that his range as we get through the streets is like much more heavily distributed in favor of just being really value heavy. Because in addition to having all these bluffs that he's probably not going to find, he's also not supposed to always raise like 8s plus. He's supposed to mix calls and raises. And that's probably a lot less likely. So that's kind of an area where I feel like his range just shifts in favor of value as we get through the streets.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I speculated that like ace deuce, king deuce would make for really good river bluffs, and you can see that they do get in there in the raising node quite a bit. But then other hands like I thought would be ones that we would want to unblock as well would be like 6-5, 5-4, and they never raise.
Right.
So they're actually playing pure call, which actually I'm going to speculate makes Guapo's hand a lot better of a bluff catch. Now you can see the ace 4 is in there. Which is no shock, but like blocking that is now a good thing on the end because we know that the 3 peels off at some point in this hand. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this constructs throughout. I agree with what you're saying about the overpairs. I think there's enough of them in there where we'll get a good insight as far as like how hard they go on like a turn 3. I imagine the ace kings and the broadways largely start checking back.
Guapo's supposed to have 10% flop 3 bets.
Yep. 5-4 spades is a little bit.
90 frequency.
Okay, so we play call here.
It
And
was a Badoogie.
the 3 Badoogie.
3 of spades. 3 of spades.
Yep. And so I imagine like
I think he's gonna have donks here. Just before,
I think
before
so
it runs,
too.
I think he's gonna have donks.
I think so. Yeah, half the time.
Boom.
There you
Okay,
go.
we got this one right.
Yeah.
He's back.
Didn't fuck this up.
Yeah. So 5-4 is like really going. Guapo even said he's like, I think that would have been weird. It's like, but it's not because he has so many overcards with backdoors.
Sometimes weird is good, man.
By the way,
the double donk.
it's specifically because it's a Badoogie 3. I'm gonna speculate that if we change this to a non-Badoogie 3, the leads are gonna get cut.
I think that will probably not be the case. I think the leads will.
You think they'll still stay like pretty
fairly
close to half?
consistent, Yeah.
Interesting. Because I think a lot,
Oh wow!
It's because he has so much backdoor
way
flush.
more than I thought.
Right, because he has so much backdoor flush draw. You don't apply pressure to overcards any longer.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Wow. Huh.
So yeah, I mean that's obviously a massive, small nuance that's really important to understand.
Wow. Yeah.
Because like you can
All
see
those
now,
hands he raised with now just have no value on the turn when
You got to
the
change it
Badoogie
back
comes.
to the.
I will, but
spades,
I wanted to show this. You can see like 5-4 now,
Yeah, don't just
barely
throw
leading
checks.
at all. mostly just playing check. So all that ace queen suited, ace king off, king queens, all this stuff. Pure. I imagine these are going to like nearly pure fold on the Badugi 3, whereas like on the 3 of clubs, a third of them are always continuing.
Right.
And then some of them, you know, like the offsuit varieties, whenever they have the single club, might call just to have bluffs on river.
Yeah. Huh.
Is this what you call breaking flow? If I would have just donked here.
No, because it's incentivized.
Well,
I mean, yes, you are breaking flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the last aggressor was in position.
Right.
Sorry, I think like we use it as a loaded term though, right? Like because we're always correcting people of like don't break flow. But you're right in the general sense.
The reason why we say that is because people always have the inclination to do it in spots where it makes no sense.
Correct.
Right? If people like donk out on like ace 6 deuce, and it's like that's breaking flow in a context where it's like you're just donking.
It's kind of like start with just stay in flow because that's then once you expand out and you start learning like leading ranges, then you can do it.
Yeah, these spots are fun though. Like it's funny. I played a hand like very similar to this at the very first hand at the PCA main event, the one where you were at my table, Buck. I played a hand before you got there where it was like I think the flop came 7-6-4 rainbow, so it was like a very clear donk bet board. It went donk, raise, call. I donked again, he called, I bet river, and he folded, and I was like, man, that was such a unique, rare line to find, but I was really confident it was good, and I looked it up and it was, and it's so similar to this, and that was what gave me really high confidence that the turn donks were going to happen in this sim, because you see that completing straight be such a good donk card a lot of the time. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Again, I kind of missed the mark here a little bit. Like ace deuce, king deuce is going to play pure check back. It's
too
not
strong, I guess, right? Like
it doesn't want to polarize here, but like ace 5 gets in there. It's happy to start bluffing a little bit. A lot of the bluffs, like king 5, queen 5, not gonna bluff. So a lot of the bluffs are coming from the 6x, 4x region.
So here's a piece of speculation. I don't think ace 5 is bluffing. I think it's value
interesting.
betting.
Okay, that's fair.
I think ace 5 is. It might even be
it's like it's a convertible hand, if you will.
Exactly. It might even be like a kind of a mega master where it might get a fold from like queen 7 sometimes,
right?
But also get called by 5-4 and 6-5. So that I think is what ace 5 is doing. But king 5 and queen 5 are not doing that, presumably because they don't have the gut shot as well. Yes,
I think you're right. The equity is just not high enough. You can see there's a pretty substantial equity difference here, or EV difference between ace 5, king 5, queen 5. So yeah, I would say this is a bit of a merge.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be utilized as bluffs some of the time on the river.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need to pull some set blocks. But most of the bluffs look like they're coming from the 8x, 6x, 4x region.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at all that like high or middle card stuff that's supposed to find bluffs here. Look at the Jack 10, the Jack 9, Queen 9, King 8, Queen 8.
It's specifically the Jack X region, it appears.
Yeah. And my guess would be that is because we are... Like, we're targeting a lot of the ace high, ace X region that might have bet called the flop, like ace deuce, ace 3, ace 5, you know, stuff like that.
I think it also blocks our strongest hands. We have 10s, 9s, and 8s in range.
Yeah.
It's nice to have blockers over those hands.
Exactly. So, yeah, this is kind of one of the things that my overall sort of perspective on this hand was speaking to. It's just that he's supposed to have these random overcard, like, blast-offs that people just really don't find in these spots, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
If you change his sizing to like 11, I think he went 11.5.
Okay.
Here, so, I mean, that's going to influence it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. We might just see like a little bit more of the queens get in there. We went like 90% pot-ish.
Yeah, basically.
88%. Okay.
Oh, wow. Jack 10 is now like almost... Jack pure. 9 is pure blast off.
Yeah.
Imagine just having Jack 9 and being like, yep, I'm just going to go for it.
This is
Gotta run it.
Jack 9 on the 7-5.
I mean, to be fair, it does have a lot of nice follow-throughs. Like, that's a really clean one to jam on a 6.
It's just so hard to find. You know? Like, who sits there in game and goes, all right, Jack 9, I'm just going for it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you understand the way that you're choosing to bluff, it makes a lot of sense because you're picking so much 6x and 4x that when the river's a 6... You don't always want to just be bluffing with a pair now that has showdown value.
Yeah.
And your 4 made a straight.
Right.
So it's like, where else are we pulling?
Right. You just like there's
8-9 got there.
There's I guess the one major takeaway from this that applies to just so many different spots is that it's very, very rare that all your bluffs for a spot are intuitive. Like,
right.
It's super rare that there's no unintuitive, nonsensical unblocker bluffs that are just blasting it off.
Yeah.
Like most spots, you're going to have some blast offs that just don't seem to make a lot of sense. And a lot of the time, whether or not people can find those is going to be the difference between are they bluffing enough versus are they under bluffing.
Right.
And that's, I think, the biggest key in some of these bluff catching spots, that if they can't find the unintuitive bluffs, they can't find enough bluffs.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that 5-4 nearly plays pure raise. The little bit of 5-4 spades that's in there mostly calls, but the other two really want to go for it. I think they're kind of just like candidate matching with pocket fives.
Yeah.
Another one of those things where they get like ace 5 probably to fold.
This is another example of like, it's super hard to have the donks here on the turn and also have the check raises.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
So when I run sims like this, what I'll do is I'll just kind of decide, like, would I have realistically ever donked here? And if I wouldn't, then I'll just force the pure check on the turn.
Right.
And vice versa. Like, if I wouldn't have, realistically check raised, I'll just force a donk and then a check call and give that alternative.
Yeah, I even though I know that Guapo wasn't going to play leads, since we got this far, let's presume
he said
that
he thought about it, so it's close enough.
Okay, yeah. Let's presume that he would, and in this instance would just otherwise play call.
Yeah.
I think that'll give us a better picture on the end too. So we're going to continue through a call here. River is going to be the 10 of spades.
10 of spades, yeah.
We get the block.
Here.
Wow.
We get not even block. It's pot.
Pot.
That's because we forced the check call.
Yeah, of course.
It's
because the hands that were check raising.
Exactly. It's the stuff that would have otherwise check raised that's now arriving here and needs to get value, and therefore it's like the sets and two pairs are finding some.
So let's assume that that's not in there.
Yeah, let's just force.
Just force check. And it looks like I'm right. 100% and all in are going to be utilized. Let's see the frequencies.
We can't see that, or at least I can't see that because
we got your picture up.
Pictures up.
So 6% all in, 14% pot. Overpairs just don't bet.
Wow.
At all.
Yeah.
Like literally at all.
That's wild.
So you need 2 pair plus in order to bet. Looks like
can't
sets.
Even like. What if you give him a third size of like half pot? Do the overpairs start betting? Because I'm surprised that they're not weak enough to even bet anything. But if the only sizes are all in and pot, that kind of makes more sense. But let's say we give him half pot, I would think that they might at least be strong enough.
It had all the options to choose from. I assume that there's just no incentive to go half.
Didn't it pick best 2 sizes though? Isn't that how you have it set up?
It's best 2 sizes plus all in.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
So yeah,
it doesn't even really.
Never used. I imagine.
Really
I imagine it's because we force check call on the turn partially.
Yeah, I think so. Like Guapo's not as capped now as what he would have been if we allowed him to check raise turn.
Right.
If we were to give him no donks on the turn and then allow him to check raise or check call, I would imagine that might actually change this river output quite a bit.
Well, yeah, it certainly will because his bet on the turn will be far, far more polar.
Well, no, I mean if we remove the donk, I mean.
Right. I'm saying he'll bet at a much lower frequency because now he faces more check raise. Yes.
Sorry,
exactly. Yeah. So he'll land on river with a much more polar range. Overpairs might start checking a lot more. Deuces were already checking turn. Pure for Manuel. So when we look at cutoff here, deuces are like a near pure check back.
Wow.
So it's already like pretty sensitive to how much it's betting.
That's so interesting.
And I'm sure if we rerun this where there's like no donks and then just have him play check raise instead, we're just going to see. So he's betting about half the time here for pot on the turn. I imagine it's going to go down pretty significally.
Check? Oh, that's
out of position. Yeah, so now it's only 30% betting.
But is the check raise allowed though? Just check that it rebuilt the tree correctly.
No.
There's no check raise.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
So just add it to like 2E or something. Fairly small check raise.
So it makes it even less.
Wow.
So when it was only 29% when there was no check raise.
Right.
So now it's only 20% bets, and you can see overpairs drastically fall off.
And for some reason, the Jack 9 is still in there. Jack 9 is like the master bluff here. Jack 9, it's so weird.
Just eats it. We're the tighter range at this point. Mm-hmm. We have the equity advantage. I mean, everything's kind of going for Guap. That's why you saw half of it, like a 50% lead range there.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's just play this out then and see if he calls river at all with 5-4. Let me eliminate donks.
We probably don't.
We did.
Oh, we did. Yeah. Go back to the strategies.
Yeah. So now it's mostly jam.
Okay.
It's mostly just playing jam instead of pot.
Because Guapo is a little more capped when he calls the turn rate, when he calls the turn bet.
I think so. Well, it's because he bets his range is so fucking tight when he bets the turn that he doesn't have any of the middle stuff
Right, but
anymore.
what I'm saying is Guapo specifically mostly has one pair when he check calls turn.
Oh, yeah, because he gets a check raise.
Because he gets the check raise, right? So now
But also, like, the hands that are betting now river are sets plus.
Right. So it's still very polar, but it's a different kind of
so it looks like it's actually using like ace-7 as the bluff. Ace-7, queen-6.
Is that a bluff?
I mean, it has to be, right?
I don't know. It might be like a Mega Master where it gets called by like 7-6 but folds out 7-8.
Maybe
it folds out like
let's see what the calling
response
range is,
looks like.
I guess.
5-4
So
pure fold.
Pure fold. It wants to have the 4 block with like a 7 or the 5 block. Or this is 2 pair.
Right. That's the ace-7. The ace-7 is getting called by 7-4.
Right, and 10-7.
And
10-7 is 2 pair.
But
Sorry,
queen-7 is
queen
small
7 a little
frequency,
bit,
but it's folding out 9s and 8s.
Right.
So it is a Mega Master.
Right. So this is kind of like similar to what we were talking about. It's like you do want to have the set block because some of the bluffs should be coming from there, but it's ones that like don't get fucked by their hands. So like you want to have the set plus straight block with ace-5, which is more important than the 5-4 because he doesn't have 6-4 in range. So you'd rather block the ace. You'd rather have the ace-7, which blocks top set and just has enough EV because it might value cut him a little bit. You want to have like the 2 pair pluses, obviously. Like so the response here is incredibly tight. Even 3s almost pure fold.
Wow.
No one plays like this.
No one plays like this.
No one plays like this.
It's because Deuces doesn't jam for value, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
What about if you look at Guapo's range, check out what region of hands are his primary river bluffs. Sorry, not Miguel's. Manuel's range. Yeah. Miguel, Manuel, Guapo. I'm all the Spanish names. I'm getting too mixed up.
So it's mostly queen 6.
What I always do for this is just highlight the trash hand region instead of
that's fair.
Or just unhighlight the second pair and no made hand now. Yeah. So if you just highlight the lowest equity stuff, it's the queen 8, the queen 6, queen 4, jack 9.
Even though the jack 9 yeeted on the turn, it's only a half frequency bluff on the end.
Yeah, it's like sometimes a give up. That's so
but jack
funny.
8 full.
Yeah.
But it's balancing, right? Like it always bets the jack 9 on the turn. It barely bets the jack 8 on the turn.
Right.
So it balances those two out.
And this I guess is the essence of what I was speaking to of people just can't find the bluffs here.
Hard to find these.
So hard to find these.
Hard to find these. But he's also, well, this is just going to further your point. He's going to jam wider for value.
Yes.
He's going to jam deuces.
And that becomes a bigger part of the problem,
Correct.
right? Like this is what you said in chat. You said like maybe he just goes for it all with an overpair, and then you said, oh well, that actually makes it again. It amplifies the idea of him not being able to find the bluffs, because if he's going to go thinner for value, he now has to find more bluffs. He has to find more of the unintuitive stuff, and it's not necessarily the king queens or the queen jacks like I suggested, but it looks like a queen or a jack with a medium to low kicker is actually the sweet spot for him to just yeet it off here for infinite amount.
Yeah. So Guapo, you got it wrong, but not on the street I thought. Not on the street I thought, my man. Which makes sense, because you put a lot of big blinds in on the river. And that's the street we got wrong.
I was watching too many Steven Chidwick videos on Triton. And I was like, man,
you spend all your time watching Triton and you convince that everybody can find the bluffs. But
shout out to Sven.
Yeah.
I am going to give myself a small pat on the back. Over the last couple of years, I certainly would never found spots to start leading. It just wasn't a thing that I did. And even though I'm not doing it completely correctly, I'm happy in that I'm starting to notice different boards and ranges that might be a little bit more beneficial for me than it is for my opponent. So.
Correct is relative. We're harsh on you because, quite frankly, we expect you to be the best student there, and you often are.
You know what? At least you didn't check dark. You know.
Yeah. That's right.
Got rid of that one.
No check dark.
Finally got that one out of range. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think for both Hunt and I, we're quite critical of your play because it's going to have the most impact. Not because we're just like have an axe to grind against you. But I think that like you take these things to heart. So it's like if we say there's no leads on 7-5 deuce, you're gonna spend a lot of time figuring out if that's actually true.
Oh yeah, and I did. I did.
You might have put a highlight together.
I did. I put a clapback video. Of course, I ran it wrong.
Well, not wrong. You ran it for your variables, and like I think that's one of the bigger high level takeaways from this discussion overall is that like you can get into the nitty gritty and you could probably justify just about any action that you take in No Limit Hold'em. But what's more important is like, what are you doing over the aggregate? How does it play in line with the way that you're actually constructing your ranges? And then what's the response that you're commonly seeing? If you're not adjusting for the response, then you're just torching it yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think also just there, it's worth noting as well how fine the margins are here, because if you had like tanked another minute on the river and then found a call, I would have been like, probably a fold, but like I get that you tanked. Honestly, my reaction was mostly because you called in like 15 seconds maybe. And I think that was the thing of like, when it's a 2x pot shove, like you really have to take the time to think through what bluffs are they finding. You know, are they capable of finding these? Like, how does my hand play against that region and all that sort of stuff?
But Matt, it's so much cooler when you just like sort of snap.
It is a lot cooler, but it's also, you know, it's the opposite of that when you snap and you lose. So,
all right, that's fair.
That's kind of a problem.
All right. If you guys would like to submit your own in the muck, head to our Discord channel. That's hashtag Discord in the chat or at onlyfriends_pod. Big shout out to GTO Wizard. If you guys would like to have your own GTO Wizard subscription to run on the AI like we just did here, you can hit hashtag Wizard in the chat or follow the link in the description below. Those guys are doing great work over there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about these in the mucks. Let us know what you think about Strat Chat. I hope that we were able to give you a few nuggets of gold today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be joined by special guest Jesse Sylvia.
Wow, Jesse's in the house.
He's going to be our resident limit player during the WSOP to let us know how the min clicking wars are doing out in those streets.
Wow.
Don't forget to subscribe, comment. What? Why are you laughing?
Because you literally
did I just say I'm just following his fucking prompt.
That's why it was funny. That's why you
damn it.
just did it again.
I fucking get set up, man. I'm just trying to
It's
outro
like Ron
here.
Burgundy. It's like whatever you put on the teleprompter, he will read it.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.